We're all very excited that you're here with us. My name is Dr. Norelli. I'm from Union County College, and with me is Dean Rebecca Royal.
Good morning, everyone. We're very excited to present to you on guided pathways. So we did hand out our presentation. There may not be enough copies. If there are not enough copies, we do have a piece of paper. If you just want to put down your name and your email address, we'd be happy to email it to you. We'll just start circulating that now.
Yeah, we're trying to cut down on the amount of paper that we're using, so I guess that's a big initiative for everybody, right? So feel free to give us your email address, and we'll email you the PowerPoint presentation, which will also provide you a direct link to our academic maps webpage, so which we will be talking about in this presentation. So to get started, how many people are in the process of implementing GPS at their college by show of hands? All right, okay, good. So we have a lot of people here who are probably starting to think about it or working on it. So hopefully this will be very helpful to all of you.
Mindy and I became the co-chairs of the Guided Pathways Initiative at our college in 2015-2016. So, you know, we started implementing different aspects of guided pathways. We became the co-chairs and we kind of embraced it and sort of ran with it. We do have a college-wide committee that includes various different areas. We have academic affairs, we have student development, institutional research. So it's a much larger group, a much larger guided pathways committee that we use as a sounding board, as feedback, as a way to get information about guided pathways. And then we kind of gather all the information and we come back and the two of us sort of hit the ground and do sort of all the back end stuff regarding guided pathways. And I think that's one of the reasons we've sort of been able to move our guided pathways initiative forward at Union County College. And most of our programs, so we just wanted to sort of frame what our institution is like. So most of our programs are AA and AS programs. So when we did our map, we based it initially on an AA program. We know that we had to approach STEM and allied sciences a little bit differently than all of our other programs because they are just different and they're much more regimented than our other programs. And the other thing we just wanted to sort of frame for you is that we are a college school. We use student planning, so we implemented student planning last year. And so we do use that for our educational plans. And then we also have, we use Acalog as our online catalog. So you may see parts of that as we go through our presentation. Okay.
And just to get us started, because I am an instructor of psychology, I want to get you started with some of the learning outcomes and expectations. So briefly, you'll learn about best practices in regard to creating academic maps. You'll learn how to evaluate academic programs to ensure that the programs at your institution are congruent with the GPS model. And we'll also talk about how to redesign and implement student services that support GPS. So we're going to start with our implementation journey at Union County College. Now, everybody knows that GPS is creating pathways for students, starting with the end in mind. And we highly recommend that when you start your planning process, that you start with the end in mind as well. What does GPS look like at your school? What does academic maps look like at your school? And the reason why we say this is we did a lot of research in what other colleges were doing, like Arizona State, Florida State, Miami-Dade, big one, Middlesex, and Massachusetts, right. So we were looking at what their academic maps look like. How many of you have done any research and looked at those maps? They're great. They're great as inspiration. But what we found is one size does not fit all in many different areas. One part being that after 37 iterations of our academic map, and it wasn't for any other reason besides the fact that we wanted to make sure it was tight, it was right, it was good for our students. But we found after the 37th iteration, we sat down, looked at each other, and realized that we had to keep our curriculum in one place, and that was our catalog. Because once you remove it from there, you open yourself up to error, right? And we don't want to disseminate incorrect information to our students, right? They need to get accurate information from the second they walk in the door. So we learned through that process that we had to approach our academic maps in a different way. So our lesson learned here for you and for us was, it's great to learn from other institutions. It's great to look at what other institutions are doing, but it's best that you take this knowledge and apply it as it's appropriate to your institution. That's always the key. So we did look at the 4 pillars, and as we go through our presentation with you, we address every one of the 4 pillars of GPS.
Do you want to give the example? So we just wanted to give an example, and we have this in our notes, that when we first started this work, we kept hearing the buzzword meta majors, like what do you do with these meta majors? And we weren't quite sure how that was going to work for us. So at our institution, we made a decision to maintain all of our academic programs. So we in our website, we grouped them together as like allied sciences and humanities and that sort of thing, but we do maintain all of our academic programs and are not necessarily at this point working with meta majors. We may move in that direction, but initially when we started working on this, we did not go immediately to meta majors. So that may become a next step.
Once again, detailing how one size does not fit all. So if you're following the GPS guidelines, which are fantastic, there's a lot of great information out there. Again, you want to look at what your institution is doing, what systems you already have in place, and then go from there, because you may actually be doing some aspects of GPS. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we wanted to share some things that we're doing at the institution, and we started doing these things at the institution before we necessarily move forward with this implementation with guided pathways. So it is a college-wide initiative. So we developed on all of our campuses student services centers. So within those student services centers, students can come in and receive services by cross-trained staff in admissions, registration, financial aid, paying your bill, testing, all of that's in one spot. We also implemented a flat rate tuition where students pay one price for from 12 to 18 credits. We also eliminated all of our college fees so that when you put out that price, like this is what the cost is, there isn't all these additional fees that students are charged. So when you're a full-time student, you're charged one flat rate, and that's it. And then also on the academic side of the house, we did a lot of work on our curriculum and taking our curriculum and streamlining it so that most of the programs were 60 credit programs. At some point, the program started to grow, and a lot of them were beyond the 60 credits. So we did a lot of work looking at the programs, and maybe you should speak more to this, but we did reduce the programs to 60 credits.
While ensuring integrity and rigor that they are meeting, standards of the state. So here's where the fun starts, and we're very proud to show this part to you. And again, if we email you our presentation, can you hear me? I'm sorry. When we email you our presentation, if that's what you would like, if you click right on our oh, look, I was so proud of the fact that, hey, technology sometimes happens, right? I was so proud of the fact that I had that embedded in here, and it should be embedded in here. Okay.
So we're going to take you to our site just so we can show you.
We would like to take you to our site,
Oh yeah, so we're going to take you to our site so we can show you sort of our maps. But we do at this point want to sort of open it up to questions about how we develop the map. So feel free to ask any questions that you have as we go through this.
So who can tell us why academic maps are important? You're here to find out, but I'm curious of who has some ideas about why academic maps are important. Any takers? Hi, Tenny Chung.
I think academic maps will provide guidance for our students to get to graduation.
Right. So academic, it really is, and it sounds overly simplistic, but it's very important. So academic maps serve many different purposes. They actually inspired conversation and collaboration. for us to take a look at our programs and how they're sequenced, for example. One of the major issues that we have is that a student will come in as a major, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this. A student comes in as a psych major, and they decide after their first semester that they just don't like psychology and they want to change. What's the major issue that comes when they change programs? Exactly.
Yeah.
They lose credits, they lose time, they waste money, right? So we went ahead and we looked at all of our programs, and I say this with an asterisk because, like we said, STEM and Allied Sciences is a little bit different in their structure and the types of math and sciences they have to take. But all of our programs were restructured so they followed the same format. So, for example, we go in a humanities, social science, math, science discipline course and an elective course. So if a student comes in and they decide that they wanted to be, let's say, a social service major, they will change their major after the first semester to go into, let's say, psychology. The formatting is the same, so they're not skipping a beat. They just move seamlessly into their new program if that is the case. It's especially helpful if you have exploratory degrees such as liberal arts or liberal studies, right? So it really does help. And that was part of the process of academic maps. We also put certain systems in place to ensure that students are on the right path, such as milestones. Many of you have heard of milestone courses, right? So we designate milestone courses, and our working definition of a milestone course is for students to stop after the first semester, after the second semester, after the third semester, to have a conversation with their professional advisors or their faculty advisors to determine, am I on the right track, especially after the first semester. Again, if a student is if a student is in a psych program and they take Psych 101 in their first semester and they absolutely don't like it, they're probably not in the right program. The other part of the milestone is for them to take key courses earlier within their program, math and science, right? We know that these are difficult courses for students who are not STEM majors, especially. So we have them take those courses. They must take their math and science early within the program because they usually tend to wait until the fourth semester, right? How many of you know this? And the struggle is real with that, right? And then they're waiting until their fourth semester, they're about to graduate, and things can kind of go wrong from there. So this was very important to us that we took a look at this and restructured. So let's show you our academic maps. This is our webpage that, again, we're very proud of. Dean Royal and I worked very hard on this. And if you look, you'll see, is it showing up?
Yeah.
Okay. You'll see we put our clusters in there. Again, we didn't do meta majors, but we did cluster our programs. So Allied Sciences, Business, Civil Service, Paralegal programs, and it gives a little bit of a description of what the student can expect to find in here. One of the other things is ease of use, okay? A student does not want to have to go through 15 clicks to find information on their program. A student doesn't want to have to go through 10 clicks or even 5 clicks. So we want to make sure that the information is accessible to them quickly as well. I don't want to go through 15 clicks either, by the way, I'm just saying. So if you look, I'll go to the social sciences, history, and education programs because, well, I'm a psych person. And within our page, the student can then find their program of study. Sorry, I'm not very good without a mouse. We also included pre-enrollment planning steps, action steps for the semester. We give them a list of steps of things that they could do at the college that not only builds a sense of community at the college, because our main objective aside from graduation is what? What's your main objective? Retention, right? So you want the students to come back. And when they feel a sense of community and they feel like they have things that they could do on the campus, they're going to come back every semester. So we built in these action steps that are very important in order to make them feel, part of the community, but also gives them technical skills like career building, career skills, resume building, and the like. You want to click on one of the links? Okay. Okay, we're going to click on a link and show you what our action steps look like. Of
And
course,
we'll stick with
we'll
psychology.
stick with psychology because, you know. So this is our pre-enrollment planning.
Yeah. So, and I just want to add that one of the reasons we really try to keep everything current on our website or keep it available on our websites is we operate these student services centers. And in these student services centers, we try to be paper-free. So students can go to these, advisors can go to these and print them out. So it really is very it's readily available for everybody. So these are sort of what we did on here was we mapped out action steps prior to the student enrolling. So completing financial aid, completing a career assessment, determining college level placement. And then we also included taking the college level math exam for STEM majors. And then attend a new student orientation, register for your first classes, select your academic program. So they're all specific action steps for the student to take. I'm just gonna go back and do. These are the action steps once the student is here. So we have a first semester action steps, and this is what Mindy was just talking about. So doing a career assessment workshop, a resume writing workshop, going to the ALC, which is our tutoring center. So when we do these for each semester. And initially when we set this up as like a fall, spring sort of thing, but then we realized we obviously have students coming in the fall and coming in the spring at different times. So when we separated out our initial map, we tried to make it more generic so that students could start at any point. And so that's why there's dates that they have to put in. Should we go to the academic?
Yep. So again, the academic programs are connected to our catalog. So our curriculum lives in one place. So this eliminates error, okay? And again, we have this information readily available to them. They can go in, check in. The action steps give them a purpose, kind of like what NJCCC does with the C4, right? Students come and sign and they feel like they have an obligation, that contractual obligation by putting their signature on it. We kind of look at it from that viewpoint as well, is that they have these action steps and they feel indebted to it. And it gives them the skills and processes that they need to be successful, not only at Union County College, but also when they go into the workforce or they transfer to their chosen institution.
Yeah, question, yes.
You mentioned that you use student planning, and we're in the process of doing that as well. So I'm wondering, how do you integrate the information that you have on this site with that student planning? Have you been able to make a connection between the two?
So, not a systematic connection.
Okay.
But we do use these different things that are on here, and the map the student eventually makes will then make it into student planning. So in student planning, you can load a sample course plan,
Yeah.
but then that only adds the required courses.
Right.
So anything that's an elective or an and/or doesn't get added. So that's when you have the conversation with the student, and then you agree on the map that they're going to take.
Right.
And so then that's the map that gets added into student planning. So that becomes more of an individual process.
I wasn't sure if you were able to figure it out, like how to put a
Yeah.
link into student planning or something like that.
Yeah.
so that you can click.
We haven't been able to do that,
Okay.
unfortunately.
And that's a great question. This is why it's very important to understand the systems that are functioning within your institution. Understand your technology, have the conversation, and then figure out what works for your institution in terms of implementation. It was a great question. Yes, another question.
When you say your curriculum lives in the catalog, does that mean that no matter where on the site you click on that curriculum, it takes you to your
To the same
online
place.
catalog?
Yes.
Okay, and so when you send curriculum or you create curriculum, you're doing the career, it's like one document with all of that information, is that the idea there? Maybe I'm not making sense.
Wait, say that again. Let me hear you again.
Right, so we update our catalog annually, so that's when the curriculum would get updated. And then, so I was just looking at our catalog as I was clicking through, and so we're in the process of moving from our 17-18 to our 18-19 catalog. So that revision comes out annually for us.
Right.
Okay, if that's, I think that's what your question was, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So no matter where you click on our website that says business program, it's always going to take you to the exact same
To the
place.
online catalog.
To the online
Yeah.
catalog.
Got it.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's like one of the biggest things that we learned.
Yeah.
was that we had to make sure we were using the actual catalog for the course sequence for all the courses in the program. Yeah. We did want to show this career sheet. We didn't have these before, and this work sort of made us put them together. And these have been one of the most exciting sheets that actually we did. We didn't realize this would happen, but our faculty use it, our advisors use it, our students use it. They really, because it kind of gives them a snapshot of what they can do. And what we decided to do at our institution was to show the career options based on earning whatever your terminal degree is at Union County College. So if it's a certificate or if it's an associate degree, this is what the position is, this listed here, and these are the potential employers. So maybe a phase 2 for us would be then showing what you could do with a bachelor's degree. That would be like our next step. But right now, we're just showing what you can do with the associate degree.
Right, and if you look at what other institutions, again, this is how we did our research, what are other institutions doing? Some of them do put a 4-year degree or a PhD, like I believe it was Miami-Dade, that when you look at their psychology program for their career information, they're telling you what a school psychologist with a PhD or a PsyD is doing. We started with the associate's degree because we understand that even though a student comes for a transfer degree, that sometimes they have to go right into the workforce without going on for a bachelor's. So at least they know what their potential earnings are.
And I just realized it's like 10 after, so we can move it.
Okay, yes.
But I just want to show, so for the transfer information for our students, what we wanted to do was have specific information by transfer institutions, but we just couldn't get that together. So what we did was we designed an AA and an AS page on transfer information, which gives general information for all those programs. So we show the financial benefits of receiving an associate at a community college. Then we just talk about the different initiatives we have on campus, NJ transfer, institution days, all the sort of things, the transfer fairs that I'm sure we all do, we all share. And then we just showed transfer institutions that our students go through. So this, again, may be like a phase 2 or a phase 3 for us, but for now, that's what we did. But yeah, we should.
Yep. So our academic maps allow us to have a conversation with our students. It opens up a dialogue between the professional advisors, the faculty advisors, the student and their parents, the student and their teachers. So did we want to have questions? Or did
Yeah, are there any questions?
Are there any
about the maps?
questions so far about the maps? Like, I know some of you might be thinking, well, why should we do this? Is it that important? I've had people ask me several times, should we do academic maps? And as part of the GPS initiative, I would say absolutely yes. Absolutely yes, because it does open up that dialogue. Questions, or we'll move on to the end? Okay, good.
Okay, so other things that we're just doing that are in line with the Guided Pathways initiatives is that we do a required new student orientation for all of our full-time students. We have a student success course that we offer in the first semester for our new students. This student success course has a lot of career activities in it, and then also we include the action steps in the student success course. We do educational planning in the student success course, so it's really all geared around a lot of the guided pathway tenets. We also aligned our programs, we aligned the math in all of our programs to 2 different tracks. So we have a STEM track and we have a non-STEM track for all of our academic programs. So depending on the program they take at our institution, they'll take a different math. So if anyone was in the previous session, they were talking about taking statistics versus college level algebra. So we do that. We do have 2 different tracks for our students. We talked about the career and transfer information already, right? Yeah, and then, choosing electives. So, I don't know, you can talk about this, right?
Choosing electives, especially if you have a program that has a lot of electives like liberal studies, that can be somewhat confusing for some students. Do they know the difference between a gen ed and a non-gen ed? Do they know the difference between a humanities and a social science? I had a student yesterday, as a matter of fact, come up and said, Dr. Norelli, I'm really excited. I have to take one more elective, and I'm going to take your Psych 102 course. I said, excellent, but is it a social science? He goes, no, it's a humanities. It says humanities. I'm sorry, you can't take a social science course for a humanities elective. So having that discussion and understanding, using the maps and those pre-enrollment action steps opens up a conversation with the student about what their electives are and having them select electives that are appropriate for their program. That's one part of it. The other part of it is, where are they going and what are they doing? If they're going into a career field, right, then they should select electives that, you know, pique their interest, that relate to their career, chosen career. If they're transferring, then a little bit of homework needs to be done. Check what New Jersey Transfer says. What is the program at that transfer college? What courses are they looking for? So they can make these informed decisions when selecting their courses. No wasted time, no wasted money, no wasted credits.
So one of the pillars of guided pathways is keeping students on the path. So to do this, we do have students meet with advisors, or we request that students come in and meet with advisors on a semester basis. So we make every effort to do that, and so that's when we have that check-in point with the student, and then that's also when we look at the milestones and say, okay, you're in this, we'll use psychology as our example, you're in this psychology class. Do you like that psychology class? Do you see yourself taking more psychology classes? Or are you sort of struggling in it? So that's our check-in point. Or we may say, you're taking a math course, and how are you doing in that math? Can I walk you over to the tutoring center if you think you need a little extra support? We do also have an early alert program. We use progress notes. We do only use this for our first-time full-time students at this point, where we get feedback from faculty on how they're doing in their classes. We find this to be very effective in terms of our outreach to students and getting them back on path and getting them stay on the path. We do, for the progress notes, we do receive 3 different progress notes from faculty members. One is to say you're in class, you went to your first class. The next one is to say actually how you're doing, and the third one is just another check-in to see how you're doing.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Can you speak to what system you're using for early alerts and for the fire report?
So, over here, our system is right over there at the table. Raise your hand. So, unfortunately, we don't have a system at this point. We're looking into a system, but right now it's just a very large, cumbersome Excel spreadsheet. So, as you can imagine. So we send that out to faculty, and they actually reply just within the boxes of the table, and then we add that to our spreadsheet. So it's pretty cumbersome, but we think it's very valuable in the work that we do. Yeah, there's a question back there.
Do you require students to meet with the academic advisors somehow electronically that prevents them from registering for upcoming semesters, or is it all on an honesty basis?
No, so for our first-time, full-time students, we do have something set up systematically. So student planning actually allows us to do this. This is new for us, where the advisor has to approve a course for a student before they can actually register for it. So I think that's helpful. We think it does help quite a bit. Students can still drop them, and they don't have to register for the one that you want them to take, but it does help in them not taking classes that don't apply to their major. Yeah.
Question. I'm adjunct at NJCCC, and I got in your Operation Graduation
Yes.
notices. What do you do? I mean, I've filled out my tables and I've submitted them. What's the next step? I never know what the next step is after that.
The next step is that then we do outreach with students. Obviously, we try to connect them, depending on what the response is, we try to connect them with tutoring. We try to give them coaching skills on how to approach their faculty member to have a discussion about something. It's just, a lot of times it's just like a gentle reminder, hey, you know, we heard from your faculty member, what's going on? And it may just be something's going on in their life, and we can just sort of talk them through that. Yeah.
So who actually performs that function of connecting the student?
The advisors.
The
Yeah.
advisors.
Professional advisors.
Okay, so the early alert information
Yes.
is funneled to the advisors?
Yes.
And the advisors do the outreach?
Yes. So yes. But we also do all the work of collating it as well. So everything comes through us, and we manage all that. We did tutoring, right? Okay.
Okay, so one of the pillars is about how are we assessing that the students are actually learning? I'm sure many of you do assessment, especially with middle states and what have you. So your program learning outcomes assessment is important. It opens up a dialogue. It's not just for middle states accreditation, but it's also for instructors and key personnel to have a discussion about, are these programs meeting the needs of industry standards, of the workforce, of the transfer institution, building these relationships with, I heard somebody say in our first session about articulation agreements. Yes, they're very important. And then again, we're assessing our programs. Are they relevant? Are they necessary? We do, as I'm sure many of you do, a 5-year program review. We have our institutional, help me with the,
Program review?
yes, the institutional review that does the 5-year review and make sure that the industry has a need for this particular program, right? So all of this, I'm sure, is happening within your institution already, just connecting with the appropriate people and then making sure that it's being disseminated to the people who are working on your GPS team. Other things that we're implementing at our college, I'm sure many of you are doing, is experiential learning. Experiential learning really gives students that edge that they need in terms of a career path or a transfer institution. Hands-on learning has been proven to be effective, and again, we are starting to really implement this in a lot of our major courses. And then recently we started with e-portfolio. Yes. So, is anybody here using ePortfolio? So this is really new at our institution. I've heard from students anecdotally that they enjoy this. It's a really nice way for them to build up their resume and have all of their accomplishments and work that they do in one place, which again is very helpful for them to be successful. So finally, we're down to our next steps. Do you want to?
Okay. So someone asked about how we're collating or gathering all of our progress notes or retention alert information. We are investigating a system-wide retention alert program, so hopefully we're going to move in that direction. We are also looking at how we can build what we do with these academic maps into, like, starting with our high schools, so building it into the dual enrollment process. That would be new for us. We haven't sort of gone off in that direction, but that would be a next step. We also have developed an intake survey that we're using for our students. Just right now, we just administered it for the first time yesterday. So this looks at non-cognitive skills. And I think someone mentioned in the previous presentation the Success Navigator. So this sort of does what a Success Navigator does, but we just devised an internal document. And then obviously we're gonna assess what we do. We have done some internal assessment, and we also, because we're part of the larger cohort for New Jersey, we did the CCRC assessment of guided pathways, but we do want to continue to look at what we're doing and improve what we're doing. And we did put down some internal assessment tools that we use that we'll look at in terms of guided pathway, which is we use the SETSI every other year, and then the student satisfaction inventory, we use that as well.
And, preliminarily, did I say that correctly? Right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we are finding that GPS is working for us. We have some of our assessment results from SETSI and the student satisfaction, and some of the data, I think it's more like demographic data and what have you, where students who might have taken more than the 60 credit program in the past, we had a percentage of students that were over 60 credits. We found recently in our most recent report that that number has gone down significantly, if not zero, at this point. And that was the whole purpose of GPS, right? Implementing GPS to make sure students come in, they graduate within the 2 to 3 year guideline, they're taking the courses that they need, and they're not wasting time, credits, money. And we're showing, initially we're showing a lot of positive results. Yep, so now we open it up to questions. We have about 10 minutes of questions. I know we just gave you a lot of information, so.
Yep.
Is your student success course required?
So we'll just repeat the question, I think, for the video. The question is the student success course required? Ours is not at this point. It's a 2-credit course. During advisement, we do put students into it. Hey, this is what you're going to take in your first semester. But if they drop it and if they don't get into it, they don't need it to graduate.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yes.
When you have dual enrollment, is that in 2 different majors, or is it two-year school, four-year school, is that what we're doing?
So when we talk about dual enrollment, we're talking about collaborating with high schools. And so possibly like taking these maps and bringing them into the high school. Like, hey, you know, you're gonna get your associate degree in psychology at Union County College. Let's get you started on this first semester.
Right, and we're actually, part of our academic master plan that we've been discussing is getting into our high schools in county, having these agreements with them, and hopefully have students, by the time they graduate, possibly having, 12 credits, and then coming to Union County College and finishing it. So, that's where we're at with the dual enrollment.
I mean, I think we're doing that at OCC already.
Okay.
And actually, we're supposed to be getting a high school on campus, and they'll be part high school till they're juniors, and then they'll become
Fantastic.
freshmen. So
right. I
you
think
might
a lot of
wanna look at
places-
that program.
I think a lot of schools are looking at, a university center or something along those lines, right? So these are all initiatives that fit the GPS model, absolutely.
Perfect.
Yes.
When you mentioned, can you talk a bit about the metrics that you were looking at to assess GPS? Do you have a certain data points that are identified?
So I think we used the CCRCC assessment
Okay.
tool. So I think it was 4 questions, but then they had the ABC, they had several sub-questions. So initially, that's what we're using for now to assess it. But we do want to we'll start looking at credits, the number of credits students are taking, how long it takes them to graduate, that sort of thing.
Right, I was wondering more like from the iPads data, are there certain items that you're starting to track? Retention from fall to fall retention?
Yes, oh, yeah.
Those pieces too.
Yes, we do, we definitely do all
Yeah.
of that already.
Got
And
it.
again, although our initial rollout of guided pathways with the academic maps was focused on the first-time, full-time cohorts coming in, we hope to expand it to everybody. So understanding that the data that we're getting from our assessments is, everybody.
Yep.
Right. So it's hard to maybe, parse out who is in the first time, full time from that initial. But the fact that the numbers are going in the right direction demonstrates that we are headed in the right direction with guided pathways, and that it works, and that it's not necessarily, again, it's not a one size fits all. Every institution has to really look and map out their process to implement. But I think once you get it all together and you implement it for your institution, you'll start seeing how it functions and what needs to be tweaked and revised, and then use that assessment to make additional revisions.
Yes.
You use the term e-portfolio, I'm assuming that that's not a product. What are you actually using to have them create?
I believe it's called Portfolium. Maybe we can ask Dr. Sande in the back. Portfolium, right?
Portfolio.
Yes, Portfolium.
Thank you.
Yep. I was just gonna say, I don't know, I think this goes back to a previous question. So we, in doing this work, we are constantly looking to modify things and make things better. So I just wanna give one example that we used to do the career assessment tool in new student orientation. So students would come in and we would require that they would take it at orientation, but we felt like it wasn't a valuable use of our time during orientation. So we pulled it out and we asked that students do it beforehand. And then our new student orientation has developed or turned into more of an engagement event with our students. And then if students don't do the career assessment prior to coming on board, then we'll catch them in the student success course. So if we don't catch them in the beginning, we then catch them at the end. So we're always trying to look at different ways to improve what we're doing and make it better for our students.
And therefore, collaboration and communication is essential, right? I mean, Dean Royal, Rebecca, and I talk every day. We've been working on GPS together, and thank you to our Vice President of Academic Affairs, Dr. Lown, who put us together. It's been a very successful relationship. I've learned about the student services side of the house. She's learned about the academic side of the house. And together, we have created what we are very proud of, and that's why we're here sharing it with all of you, and hope that you can find your inspiration to move forward with the GPS initiative. But again, collaboration, communication, look at the systems that you have functioning in your institution, and then build your own map to the end goal for GPS. at your institution. Any other questions? Because we're down to our last couple minutes with you. Any other questions? Yes?
I was just in your, the STEM program that they were
Yep.
discussing across the way, and they had mentioned that they're moving to an online platform for orientation. Is that for their specific program or the whole college?
That's for their specific program.
Okay.
Yeah, we would like to do that across the college, but we haven't been able to do that. So and I think there's value in having students come on campus. So you get to start building that engagement and relationship at that point.
Yeah, online advising and any kind of online orientation is definitely helpful, and when you have programs that are fully online, you definitely have to have that component, I would argue. But again, we want students who are, brick and mortar in the classroom, we want them on campus, we want them to feel connected. That's why we do all the things that we do to make them feel like that they're a part of this community, and they come back. And we retain them, and then we graduate them, and we give our community well-educated, well-prepared students. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
1,000%.